Welcome to Beyond Birth Trauma, From Burden to Brilliance, where we uncover the powerful truth about your beginnings and how they've shaped your entire life. I'm Shannon O'Flaherty, and in this show, we are not just exploring your birth, we are dismantling the chains of generational trauma. We're diving into the core of who you are, peeling back layers of inherited beliefs and behaviors that have held you back for far too long. This isn't just about understanding your past. It is about reclaiming your future. Get ready to break free. This is Beyond Birth Trauma, From Burden to Brilliance, and your transformation starts now. Hi, Shannon O'Flaherty here. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Beyond Birth Trauma, From Burden to Brilliance. And today's episode is all about creating the best fertility platform possible, because fertility is all about abundant cellular energy. It all starts from there. So if we want to increase fertility health, prevent complications in pregnancy, and be healthy parents raising healthy children, we need to start thinking of preconception care more broadly. And our guest today, Kindreth Hamilton, knows from personal experience that confronting infertility can be an exhausting and lonely journey. Kindreth is a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and she holds a master's of science from Tufts Medical School in pain research, education, policy, and is a natural board certified health and wellness coach specializing in women's health. She views health through the biopsychosocial lens and supports women through acupuncture and coaching to increase their fertility health. Kindreth, thank you so much for being here. I'm so honored to have you on as my guest.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you, Shannon. I'm excited for today.
Great. Thanks to see you. Thanks for making time. I know you've got a very busy schedule. So, let's just dive right in. What
Yeah.
led you to becoming a fertility specialized acupuncturist?
Yeah, so it really came out of my own personal experience with infertility. And through that journey, realizing that it's really hard in the midst of it to begin to kind of cobble together resources, and that health is so, and fertility is so multifactorial, that women really need more. They need more support. They need to really feel like they have that underpinning of support. And so through my journey, that really has informed how I practice and how I speak to women, the lens that I view fertility through.
Mm-hmm. So when you realized, so what, you and your husband were trying to conceive
Yeah.
and things weren't happening. So
Yeah.
how long did you take? Because this is the timing. Sometimes people take a long time and then they're like, oh no, running out of time now. I'm 38, 40, 42.
Yeah, absolutely. So we probably tried for several years. And it honestly wasn't until I talked to a friend. I had a running buddy, and I shared what we were going through. And as it turned out, she had gone through infertility as well, and gave me, that start on the journey of talking to someone.
Mhm.
And from there, we went through various testings. The diagnosis was unexplained, which for someone who likes information and ducks in a row was really kind of maddening. I was like, what do you mean it's unexplained? You have no answers.
Yeah.
And
What's
um,
the reason? I think everybody would
yeah,
want to know why can't we conceive? What's blocking it? Yeah.
yeah. And I think that's one of the most frustrating diagnoses to have. And so we ended up going through IVF, and we have two lovely boys now. But
Yes, I know your
yeah.
voice. And so did you just go through one series of IVF?
No, we ended up first we did, as most people will do, we did IUIs, which is kind of the least invasive step into fertility treatments. And when those didn't work, we
Can you
prepared to
tell
do.
us, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah,
Can you tell us what that is, the IUIs?
sure. So IUI is It stands for intrauterine insemination. So it's basically taking sperm and putting it right in the uterus. And like I said, it's the least invasive step towards a fertility treatment. And so that's usually where people will start. And when that doesn't work, sometimes if they want, go into IVF, which is in vitro fertilization, where eggs are actually taken out of the body, fertilized in a petri dish, and then put back into the uterus.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
that's very interesting. I didn't
yeah,
realize that there was a different thing.
mhm,
Yes, I knew that
yeah.
eggs were taken out and put in a petri dish, but I didn't know that you could actually just skip that part, maybe. Right.
Yeah, yep. So we ended up, once we got to IVF, I thought, okay, this has to work. This will be it. And we did a cycle, and it was around Christmas, and I realized that the cycle wasn't working. And was of course devastated. And at that point, it had been so long that I just needed a break. So we stopped for a time. I didn't go through any more treatments. I rode my horse. I really worked on regulating my nervous system. And then we tried another cycle, and we have one of our sons. So we kind of went through these patterns of like a cycle working, or not working, and then a cycle worked. And then for our second son, a cycle didn't work, and then the next one worked. So everybody has a different journey. Everybody's reason will be different. But when I'm working with someone, we're really looking at trying to uncover what is the root cause, and what parts of that foundational kind of lifestyle can be improved so that hopefully you have better odds of it working.
Hmm. And so during that time of so the IVF, I don't know an awful lot about it, and maybe a lot of my viewers don't either. I mean, we've all kind of heard about it, but unless you've really gone through it,
Yeah.
you don't know. So are you the process, I believe, are there you're injecting hormones into you, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yep. And there are, of course, all different protocols depending on what the main reason is. But yes, you are working with a reproductive endocrinologist basically to um, fix, in a hormonal sense, fix or override your body system. So you are causing your body to produce as many eggs in that cycle as you might produce in a year. So it's quite taxing for the body. When you think about energy and resource, your body is being told to produce as many as, 12 or more eggs. Or less, depending on, again, it depends on the person's diagnosis. But you take injections, then you cause ovulation, and then shortly after you go in for a surgical procedure to extract those eggs. They're mixed with sperm and hopefully fertilize. Some people opt to do testing, some people don't. There are different ways that this plays out depending on your beliefs and depending on what your journey's been so far.
Hmm. Very interesting. I mean, I've done a lot of work with clients who weren't getting pregnant in terms of the psychological beliefs, the energetic beliefs, the ancestral beliefs. That's all of my kind of area. But there's so many other beliefs, like actual literal things going on in the world and physical things that could be holding them back too. Now, when you were going through all of this, did you have emotional support? Because that's a whole lot of emotions, like a big up and down kind of thing where you've got all of this hope, you've got everything kind of riding on this, and then it doesn't work out. And then you try again, and then you go through all of that again. I've had clients do this.
Yeah. I think quite honestly, that was probably a big piece missing. So for me, my way of coping with honestly most things in the world is to go ride a horse. Um,
I'm right there with
it's
you.
just, that's where I find my peace, my regulation. It's connecting to nature, it's movement, it's prayer, it's meditation, it's everything. So I rode my horse, and my husband is my best friend. So together, that's really the support system that honestly, when I say I didn't have a lot, really that was the foundation that I needed. Um, in terms of, talking outside of that, support groups and other things that are available, that's not really what I needed necessarily. I needed in hindsight, I needed to understand the reasons why it wasn't working, because
Mhm.
I very much like to fix situations, or at least be able to investigate and learn from them. And so I think that piece really deeply is what fuels my practice,
Mhm.
helping women to realize that in Chinese medicine, we can't separate the emotional component, the psycho-spiritual component with our physical health.
Mhm.
And so if someone
Right.
is really struggling on that emotional level, then they might also be missing some really important physical factors. They're so interconnected and intertwined.
Can you give us a little, for example?
Yeah, so you're so going back to kind of the biopsychosocial model, the social piece, is how we interact with our world. It's the support systems. And nourishment, I think, really means how are we being nourished from a societal perspective, what
Mhm.
we bring into our spirit, and how do we nourish our body physically. And
Mhm.
so women who are going through infertility, research shows that they actually have the same emotional trauma, the psychological response, as women who are going through a life-threatening illness like cancer. Um,
Oh.
and and I think it's fascinating. We make room for kind of the emotional component that one might experience with cancer, but I
Mhm.
think because infertility is such a vulnerable and not much shared experience, there's a lot of space for women to feel isolated, and not begin to reach out and to feel like their body is broken. It might not happen for me. There's this sense of teetering between always wanting to hope for the best, but
Mhm.
always being guarded, that element of self-preservation.
Mhm.
Because what if it doesn't happen? That's kind of always part of it too.
And that does happen. Do you know the stats on that? I don't mean to put you on the spot if you don't know stats.
It honestly varies. I mean, honestly, IVF has come such a very long way, that the longer someone stays in treatment who has, a reasonable outcome of it working, the better the chances are. So my husband would always say, it's a numbers game. We have to try another cycle. It's a numbers game, maybe. And sometimes the reason for them not getting pregnant is because they drop out of treatment because of the emotional distress. And there, again, in research, we see that these women and couples have mental health diagnoses of anxiety and depression. And so that's a way that acupuncture can come in and kind of fit both of those realms, where it can really address that nervous system component of kind of down regulating the nervous system out of fight or flight, so that your body can come into this place of the rest zone, the parasympathetic nervous system of rest, digest, and repair. It's kind of like the green zone, where you can begin healing.
Mhm.
And at that point, then your body can start orchestrating hormone cascade more properly. You can assimilate food more properly. So, working on both of those levels to both down regulate, but then also bring nutrients into the uterus.
Now you said hormone cascade, so I
Mm.
imagine all these hormones going.
Yeah, it's so
So,
complex. Yeah.
in a nutshell, hormone cascade
So
is.
hormone cascade means really, we think of reproduction like estrogen, testosterone, um, but it really starts in our brain at a place called the hypothalamus pituitary axis, which is, that place in your brain that hormones are pulsed. And in women, it sets that communication between your brain and your ovaries. So there's this communication of your brain saying, produce an egg, grow a follicle, and then all of these hormones in a feedback loop, a communication loop,
Hmm.
begin speaking to one another. And so when that works well, you can grow a follicle, ovulate an egg, and conceive. And when there are issues, bumps in that come about, that's where problems can occur.
I mean, it is a miracle that anybody can get pregnant in the first place if you
It is,
actually look
yeah,
at what actually has to happen. It's amazing that there's
really,
any surprise babies.
yeah.
Oh, wow. And so, earlier I meant to ask this question, but it was so interesting what you were saying. I let it go, but it's still in my mind. So with the hormone injection, because it's asking your body to produce excess eggs,
Mhm.
does that actually make you physically exhausted? Like your body is kind of.
Yeah, it absolutely can. Some women will have a hard time being on their estrogen. Some women, after you go through that process, the next step is to be supported with progesterone. Progesterone is that hormone that holds the uterus lining and creates this nice, rich environment for implantation. So think progest, so pro
Right, right.
keeping the
Okay.
embryo safe.
Mm.
Um, and that hormone, as it does in early pregnancy, can cause fatigue. It can cause digestive issues. Your digestive system begins to slow down. And so, yes, there are, repercussions to taking these hormones, these drugs.
Hmm. So before we go any further, can you please tell our viewing and listening audience where they can find you? Because they're all like, need to go work with her now.
Well, I have two ways. People can come and see me for acupuncture.
Tell
Um,
them where you are in the
and
world.
I'm in, yeah. So I am in Western Massachusetts, in South Hadley, Massachusetts, Pioneer Valley. And then I work with women remotely, through health coaching, which I really love because that just is a way of spreading this information even further.
Mhm.
And so working with women one-on-one through coaching.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess you can't do acupuncture from a distance
No.
unless you have a surrogate. That would be interesting. Were you already an acupuncturist when you found out you couldn't get pregnant?
I was a fledgling acupuncturist.
Okay. I
I
remember you've been an acupuncturist as long as I've known you, I think. So I
Yeah, so
think,
I am in, which is shocking to me, but I am in my 18th year of practice.
oh,
Um, and so when I was just kind of like starting to think about starting a family, I had recently graduated from acupuncture, and was on the cusp of finishing up my master's at Tufts. I was writing a research paper and trying to start a family. So stress was running high.
I was going to say just a
Um,
little bit of stress
yeah,
there,
and
which could.
um, and I really, in hindsight, like I know so much more, of course, after 18 years of practice, and view things in a totally different way than I did in those very, very early days. Yeah,
Of course, yeah,
it's an art.
all of
You
us.
practice your art.
So, and online, how did they find you online? Did you give an
Oh
email
yeah.
address or
Yep. So it's just drkindreth.com.
drkindreth.com? Okay,
Yes.
that's good. And you guys can find me at shannonbtb.com or shannonoflaherty.com. So we're going to take a short break right now. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back just after the break. See y'all soon. Hi, Shannon O'Flaherty here with my lovely guest, Dr. Kindreth Hamilton. Thank you for sticking with us, or if you're just joining us now, today we're talking about how to create the best cellular capacity or energy to become fertile and to host a baby all the way through to delivery. So, Kindreth, how do you do that?
Um, so I really think of fertility as being on this spectrum of health, that when the body is deeply healthy in its, capacity, whatever that might be for the individual, but deeply healthy, that we tend towards a more fertile capacity. And so the lens in which I kind of view this now is resilient fertility, because I really believe, and I see in practice all the time, that when you nourish the body, mind, body, and spirit, and give it the nutrients, whether it's spirit nutrients, whether it's the physical nutrients, to make your biology work, that you move your body towards a state of more fertility. And that the body has this beautiful capacity. It wants to be in homeostasis, it wants to be in balance. And so when you give it the right tools and the right environment, it has that cellular capacity to get to that point. And so whenever I work with someone, I'm always looking at, okay, who is this individual in front of me? Because we are each so unique. And although we might come with the same diagnosis, the root cause of how we got there might be slightly different for each person. And so part of resilient fertility is looking through that perspective of what's your emotional health? What is your nutrition like? Are you sleeping? What's your exercise? Are you moving your body, or do you sit at a computer all day long? Helping women to really understand and read, to be literate about their menstrual cycle. And I see this as something that's so hugely missed, just in basic education for women. So many women come in and they kind of sheepishly say, I actually don't really know what's
I
going on.
don't know
I don't know how
the
to pinpoint
cycle.
ovulation. Yeah, I don't know how to pinpoint ovulation. I don't
Wow.
know if my cycle is long enough. Is it too short? So the mechanisms that make fertility function, and
Mhm.
so helping to bring somebody back into balance.
Well, it is, yeah, it's not really a thing that's discussed very much. I mean, luckily for me, I had a pretty open mother and a very loving sister that I could go to about all things female. But like, what is the normal length of a period and what's that supposed to look like? And you hear about all of these different women and all of the different experiences and traumas they go through, sometimes every month. I mean, from whenever it starts, 13 or sometimes earlier, people getting really sick. I mean, I have seen all sorts of things. I was fairly lucky, touch wood. But how people don't exactly go out and talk about that openly, really, do they? Unless
No,
something's
and
wrong.
even, sometimes when women go to their doctor and describe what's happening, um, more often than not, it's usually birth control that's offered. And if someone is trying to conceive, I've actually had patients come back and say to me, my doctor said, um, this level of pain can be normal. Your cycle is normal. Come back and see me in a year when you're pregnant. Um, and so, for the person on the other end who's suffering, that's a really disheartening thing. And unless you are somebody who's already strong and you know how to advocate for yourself, um, it can be something where you feel like you don't even know what to ask next. And so, part of working with someone too is sharing that information, educating them so that they can go back to their doctor, because I'm not a medical doctor. I work in that realm of the integration of holistic Chinese medicine, and coupling that with really teamwork with what their doctor's doing. I never step outside that bound.
You're
Um,
the bridge, darling.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
you're the
I
bridge
am that
between.
integration for people.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
really that's part of what I love about my medicine, and what I love about coaching women too, is to help to bring them to a point of self-advocacy. Because when she begins to advocate for herself and her own healthcare and understand her body, it just makes her that much better at advocating when she's a mother for that child. And
Oh,
so there's this, I'm always looking at that continuum of, yes, I see you for preconception, but who are you going to be as a mother as well? And bringing those two together.
And do your clients continue with you? I mean, I love acupuncture. When I went through menopause, I went and had, I think, 12 weeks of acupuncture, and it really made a massive difference, really massive difference. So there's acupuncture for all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But after the women conceive the babies and have the babies, do they stay with you for the coaching and the acupuncture to keep them a nice, sane, calm mommy part?
Yeah, I often see women for postpartum recovery. Um,
Hmm.
so and that's just a joy to see, baby pictures and hear birth stories and also to hold space for births that didn't go according to plan. And be kind of a witness to hearing that woman's experience. But then, in that postpartum experience, being able to, again, just as I did preconception, give her resources. Maybe she needs a referral to a pelvic floor therapist. Maybe she needs a therapist. Acupuncture to help settle the nervous system, to help the body heal and knit scars back together. So there's a wide range, but I do see women postpartum.
Did you say pelvic floor therapist?
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
there are therapists for everything. Pelvic floor therapist. Wow, I didn't know. Well, I'm learning so much on this call today. It's absolutely amazing. You're very, very smart woman. So you had mentioned the green zone earlier.
Mhm.
And also we had talked before this call. But what's the calm aliveness? I loved
Oh
that kind
yeah.
of term.
It's
Yeah.
it's a term that I learned from my one of my coaching instructors. This element of calm aliveness. So we have two parts of our nervous system. There's the fight or flight, which we can all recognize. Your heart pounds, you feel stress, and it's your body saying, "Let's run, let's get out of danger." The balance to that, right? We have this yin and yang component. The yin side of that is your parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your nervous system that allows you to downregulate after a stressor.
Mhm.
Um, and to be able to come back into that part that allows for digestion, cellular repair, it allows you to sleep, it allows you to rest. And we have to be able, part of that calm aliveness is being kind of flexible in your nervous system, being able to jump between the stress response because it is protective, it's there for a reason,
Oh, sure.
and then be able to down regulate and come back into this rest zone. But part of what has happened in our modern world is that we're biologically wired that way, but we are constantly now bombarded with emails, sitting in traffic, meetings we don't want to be in, you name it, right? There's a rush and overwhelm. And on a cellular level, your body is perceiving all of those things as stress. And so we kind of live in this hyper alert stress state. And for some people, it's really pronounced. And so teaching people, giving them tools, acupuncture, coaching, um, to bring awareness to how they can bring themselves back to that green zone and live more from that calm aliveness.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, like whether it's horseback riding
Yep.
or dancing or whatever
Anything. Yeah. Yeah.
you.
Wherever you find peace, right? It's that element in your life that makes you feel grounded and peaceful and centered. Um, and I always find it interesting. That's part of my intake with everyone is that I ask, what brings you joy? What nourishes you? What fills you up? And some people can't answer that. They take a long time to answer that, and part of it is that their life is so full that no one has ever asked them to focus on that, or maybe they don't have time to do the things that bring them joy. But planting that seed, we need joy.
It's a really important thing that you've just said because a lot of the belief work that I do are downloads, and sometimes the downloads are about actually teaching people to know what it feels like, to know what joy feels like. Because sometimes some people go, "Joy, I don't know what joy, I don't know what's that," or whatever the feeling or the emotion is. So we've got to know what it is so that we can go, "Oh, this is joy, fantastic." And so. And that's wonderful when you help people conceive and everything's groovy. And what about the part though when it's not working out.
It does happen, of course. And I've had patients where, for whatever reason, again, they've come to the end of that journey. And um, it's a place of sorrow, certainly. A place that takes a long time sometimes to bring acceptance to. And for some women, they find that being a mother actually happens in different ways. And the idea of being fertile can extend so much more, once the healing has happened, can extend so much more than a child in your arms. There are other ways in life to be fertile and fruitful.
Mhm.
Um, some women go on to adopt, some women go on to donor cycles or having a surrogate. If it's not that they themselves produce a baby with their egg and carry a child that way. There are some other options that some of my patients take. But
Mhm.
it's heartbreaking, and I see that all the time.
Yeah,
It's
I've
the
seen.
element we can't control, right? Like
Oh,
we try
well, I'm
we try so hard to control all of these things, and we think, now that we're adding all of these, other elements, these drugs, these procedures, that surely it's going to work. And at the end of the day, we can't control everything. And so for some of those patients, it's also coming to that, that surrender of, I did everything that I could. They want to know that they did everything they could,
Mhm.
before they move on.
Yeah, sometimes that's all that's meant to be. I mean, in my world, in the shamanic world, we come here with a contract, with a soul contract, and maybe this time around it's not your turn to actually physically deliver a baby. And that is hard. That's very hard and heartbreaking. But I loved what you said, how there's so many different ways that we can be a mother,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's to
Yeah.
our own children, all the other ways of adopting babies, but even if there's no baby in the scene, think about all of your friends that you take care of, right? Think about all the people that come to you for nurturing, for holding, for advice, for support. These are all mothering qualities, right?
Right.
And holding space. Think about all the people you cook for, right?
Mhm.
So, and even creatures, because a lot of people they call their creatures their fur babies, right? So a lot of people, their pets actually sort of become their children, and that's okay too, because what's important is to give and feel fulfilled in whatever possible way you can. And even if it's not with the actual baby, there's other ways to fill that in. Yeah, I really love that. So tell everybody how they can find you again, because we might have new people on board. So repeat all that stuff you said
Sure.
before.
So, my acupuncture practice is in New England and Western Massachusetts. And my website is drkindreth.com. So, I work with women through acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine. And then I work with women remotely, through coaching. And so I can, do that online and reach lots of women that way.
Mhm. That's great. Thank you. And you can find me at shannonbtb.com or shannonoflaherty.com. And if you go to shannonbtb.com, there's a PDF there with, I don't know how many questions are on there, but great questions you can ask your mother, your parents about your own birth and how it was for you, because maybe there's a blocker in there. Maybe there's some fear about getting pregnant that you're not really aware of. Maybe it's suppressed or somewhere in the back there. So I'm sure Kindreth could help you with that, and so can I. So always think about all aspects, because we're working holistically. We're not just our bodies, we're our minds, we're our spirits, we're our heart, right? So it's time to go in deep and ask some kind of hard questions there. But yeah, and whatever I was just going to ask you totally went right out of my mind right now. uh, so after the break, we're going to hear a little bit about one of Dr. Kindreth's success stories. And then she's going to take everybody through a process called microcosmic orbit breathing. And if you've worked with me, you've probably had that experience too. It's a wonderful process to basically calm your central nervous system, which all of us need help with at some point in time. So stay tuned and we'll see you after the break. Hi, welcome back. Shannon O'Flaherty here. Thanks for sticking with us on From Burden to Brilliance. Oh, that's the subtitle. Beyond Birth Trauma, From Burden to Brilliance. And Kindreth's just been telling us all about creating the best possible situation for best fertility. It's been fascinating. I've learned so much during this call. And I remembered the thing that I was going to ask her before because she was talking about acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine. So I just wanted to touch base real quickly, nothing too deep, but talk to us briefly about the Chinese herbal medicine, how you use that, how that works. Is it either or, both, and what's
No.
going on?
So you can think of traditional Chinese medicine as the big heading, and then underneath it you have acupuncture, you have Chinese herbal medicine. There's a modality called moxibustion. There's Tui Na, which is like a body work type. So within Chinese medicine, there are different categories, and so what I practice is acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine. I also do Tui Na, which is the body work portion, if I'm working with someone with a physical condition, like a musculoskeletal issue.
Mhm.
So, but Chinese herbal medicine is like acupuncture, completely tailored to that individual's Chinese medicine diagnostic pattern. Chinese medicine views everything in patterns. And so, after doing an intake with someone, I might offer Chinese herbal medicine as part of that treatment, especially if we can't meet weekly for acupuncture. Um,
Okay.
and so Chinese herbs can be used really for anything from the common cold to musculoskeletal issues to menstrual pain to helping to regulate the menstrual cycle. And so depending again on what's going on with that woman in front of me, I might offer Chinese herbs as part of that.
hmm And do you ever get anybody? I mean, maybe it would be strange if they were terrified of needles and they'd come to an acupuncturist, but that's what I
It
did
happens.
100 million years ago. I was terrified of needles, always, always. And I thought, I know, I'll go have acupuncture and get over myself, right? So, and I don't have a problem with acupuncture, but don't ask to take my blood, right? So it's a
Yes.
different.
So I have women who come who are very nervous of needles, and what I tell them is that I am an acupuncturist who's scared of needles myself. So the fact that I went through IVF and had blood draws, weekly is amazing to me. But the needles are very, very gentle. And most people fall asleep during treatment or at least feel very relaxed because acupuncture helps to release beta endorphins. So the same, endorphin rush you get from physical exertion exercise, you might feel that after acupuncture. And so there are some people who just do Chinese herbs as their treatment, and some people who just do acupuncture as their treatment, but they can be combined.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good to know. I'm glad I didn't know that all those years ago, or I never would have gone to acupuncture. But I like acupuncture. I think it's really great. And I would turn towards that anytime. If I lived near you, I'd be on your table every week. So not for babies. Been there, done that. So why don't you tell us one of your success stories?
Yeah, so there are so many that come to mind, but this person in particular holds a very special place because she was such an example of courage. That's just the word that comes to mind when I think about her because she came to me. This is about 5 years ago. She came to me after experiencing a loss at 21 weeks. And she'd already, prior to that, had 4 miscarriages. And so you can just imagine, the extreme devastation and sorrow.
I mean, 21 weeks, that's like 4 or 5 months pregnant already. So you have to
Yeah.
actually birth that baby,
Yep.
don't you?
Yep.
Oh,
Um,
that's
so
awful.
she went through this. She went through another IVF cycle. We worked the whole time through it. Conceived again, um, and sadly lost this baby again at 22 weeks. And through all of it, I knew she was in pain. I knew that there was that component going on. And every time she came into my office, it was, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to, get from A to B? How am I going to get pregnant again? And I set her up with a pelvic floor therapist to work on strengthening that area. I referred her to a psychologist for the emotional healing component. She worked with a bereavement group for parents who have lost children. Um, and she went through another cycle, and she and her husband ended up with one viable embryo. And it was the first time where I actually heard that teetering of like, what if it doesn't work? And I reminded her that it only takes one. Really, it just takes one good egg, one good embryo, and maybe this would be it. And she did conceive. She has a beautiful baby boy now.
Good.
And so it was traumatic, but it had a happy ending. And like I said, she so stands out and is in my heart for her courage and her perseverance and her mindset as she went through this. It was really beautiful.
Mhm. So that's a very long process then from realizing
Years.
I'm not conceiving to
Yeah,
I'm having a baby, not having that baby. I'm having another baby, not having that baby. We're trying again. Finally, a baby. I mean, we're talking years,
years,
right?
years and years. Yeah, yep, yep.
And in vitro is expensive.
It is, and some of my patients, here in the United States are covered for IVF, depending on what state they're in and the insurance. It can be complicated, of course. Some patients are paying out of pocket, and so there is a range. And so, when you talk about stress, putting the financial stress in the mix really heightens things for women as well. Couples,
Yeah.
men too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. And the relationship dynamics at home, if you have another child at home, I mean, so you were a young mother with a toddler running around the second time you
Right.
went through
Yep.
in vitro. So I mean, that's a lot. Like a
Yep.
toddler is a lot anywhere. And yeah, wow. I don't know if IVF is available on the NHS, actually. I'm not up on that, but I think I might be making this up, everybody, so don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure somebody once said to me here in England that part of it was available. I'm not sure, but you need to look into that. So, um, yeah, wow. That's Were you guys covered? Did you have insurance for all of that?
We did, thankfully. We're very
Mhm.
blessed to have, been able to do it through insurance. Because if we didn't, I probably would not be a mother to two boys. And I would have thrown myself wholeheartedly into riding. My husband and I always said that no matter what, we would have been fine because we love each other. We're each other's best friends. And having a family for us was an outpouring of that, not a fix for anything. Um,
Mhm.
and so if we weren't blessed with the boys that we have now, we just would have had a different life. It would have been, a different journey.
Mhm. Wow. Yeah, that's really important what you've just said also is not a fix for anything.
Mhm.
Um, Having babies is never a fix for anything, by the way. So we have a few minutes left, and I'd really love for you to take people through this microcosmic orbit and tell everybody what that's about.
Yeah. So the microcosmic orbit is it's a meditative process of consolidating energy in a Chinese medicine term, consolidating energy and viewing yourself as the microcosm of your macrocosm, whatever's going on in your world. Um, there's also a concept in Chinese medicine within fertility work of the connection between the heart and the uterus. It's called the Baimao. And it said that when your heart is open, or that your heart needs to be open for ovulation and for conception. And so when I work with women, I tie all of these together and I put it within the framework of our endocrine system. So that hypothalamus pituitary axis. Your heart is said to be the master controller in Chinese medicine, and you can think of that metaphorically as being your brain, being your hypothalamus pituitary axis. So I'd love to lead everyone through a meditation.
So when we do these things, I really like everybody to be sitting upright, have both your feet on the floor, have a little drink of water so that you're well hydrated, so all your energy can flow through you really easily. And I'm going to go through this too. Thank you. It's
Okay.
nice to be led through this instead of.
Yeah, so this might be a little bit different, but
Yeah.
so just you can close your eyes if you want to, or you can just turn your gaze downward, whatever you need to do to bring yourself into a calm center and leave the world behind for a time. And just become aware of your breath. Don't change anything, just feel your breath. And you can place a hand on your heart and a hand on your abdomen, just below your belly button. And this in meditative practices, it's called your dantian, your lower dantian. And it is the place of energy source. Interestingly, the place, where we house our uterus, the place of power and life. It's where we create life. And your chi is your life energy as well. So when you're ready, just take a deep breath in and let your abdomen be soft and feel the expanse. And bring that breath all the way down to your dantian. And then envision the breath slipping down over your perineum, up over your sacrum, and up your spine to where all your spinal nerves innervate and nourish your organs. And as you travel up the spine, you come to the top of your head, the place of your hypothalamus pituitary axis, where hormone production starts and that communication between your brain and your ovaries. And come down to your throat. This is where your thyroid is. It regulates metabolism and function. It has implications in ovulation. And come down to your heart. This is the place of your Shen, your spirit. And meditate on that connection between your heart and your uterus. As you come down the Baimao, what does it mean to be open and receptive to life? What does that look like in your life? And as you come down the Baimao, back to the dantian, just rest your hands there for a moment and bless your uterus. And we'll circle the orbit one more time. So taking a breath in down to the dantian, over the perineum, up your sacrum and your spine, and coming to the top of your head. And bless your brain, your hypothalamus pituitary axis. And come down to your throat and bless your thyroid. And rest over your heart, your Shen. and come down the bimau, the connection between your heart and your uterus, being open, being receptive, and where it also, the bimau travels along and connects through the conception vessel. They run parallel. And come back down to your dantian. And let your breath be soft. And when you're ready, open your eyes.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Yeah, a little different than how I do it, but that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you very much. I feel very connected and fertile. I can't wait to see what I birth after this. Tell everybody again, Kindreth, real quick, where they can find you.
Yeah, so
Your email.
I'm in Western Massachusetts in South Hadley, and you can find me at drkindreth.com for coaching online or in person for acupuncture.
And you can find me, shannonbtb.com or shannonoflaherty.com. Kindreth, thank you so much for being my guest today. It's been absolutely fascinating. I've learned so much, and I'm sure you all have too out there.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure to be here and to share what I love.
That's fantastic. Okay, everybody, go on out there and be fertile and create. Lots of love. See you next time. You have been listening to Beyond Birth Trauma, From Burden to Brilliance with Shannon O'Flaherty on Transformation Talk Radio. On the second Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, we connect the dots between your ancestors, your birth, and the patterns that keep you stuck, guiding you to a place of profound healing and unstoppable brilliance. By examining and healing your cellular imprint from birth of how you perceive and respond to the world and the challenges that are created in your day-to-day life, we can begin to heal and live more balanced and fulfilling lives. For more information, visit shannonbtb.com. That's shannonbtb.com.